If you ask someone what they think is essential for the survival of humankind, then what do you think they would say? Food, probably, or water, or maybe even shelter. But the one thing that barely anyone says is sleep. Now, sleep is the way we humans regain our energy, it's how we heal our wounds, and it's how we grow. So, what would happen if you don't get enough of the sleep that basically fuels our very existence? In 1965, a high school student named Randy Gardner attempted to stay awake for as long as possible for a school science project. Although it was seriously dangerous, he had a Stanford sleep researcher, Dr. William C. Dement, on standby while his health was monitored by Lieutenant Commander John J. Ross. He ended up staying awake for over 11 days, which beat the previous record of 260 hours. However, this achievement didn't come without lots of suffering and struggling. On the second day of the experiment, he became unable to focus and couldn't identify objects by touching them alone. The next day, he was said to have constant mood changes and was uncoordinated. By the time the 11 days were over, he had trouble with short-term memory, had hallucinations, and had paranoia. Although he recovered perfectly fine afterwards, besides years of insomnia, other people have different long-term effects such as hormonal imbalance, illness, and for some, death. A study done by a Harvard student named Tuan Yi Huang also found that not sticking to a sleeping schedule and getting different amount of sleep each night can put a person at higher risk for obesity, high cholesterol, hypertension, high blood sugar, and other metabolic disorders such as heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes. So now you know the consequences of sleep deprivation. You may ask, why do we get tired anyways? Well, you see, our bodies grow tired due to the pineal gland increasing production of a hormone called melatonin, which is the chemical that makes you doze off. As you start to transition into deeper sleep, growth hormone production increases, and this is the time your tissues and muscles are repaired. Another chemical that helps you sleep is called adenosine, which is basically the byproduct from our cells breaking down our day's energy source. It builds up in your brain and urges you to sleep, and eventually, along with other waste products, it will collectively build up in your brain until it overloads it, leading to the symptoms of sleep deprivation. Now, I'm sure you're tired of hearing all of that stuff, so let's talk about my journey. While I was growing up, I never made decisions. What did I want for dinner? I don't know. What did I want to do? I don't know. This may have been due to my lack of creativity or just me being tired or lazy, but the more this went on for, the more I didn't make decisions, which led to a lot of unfortunate events. So when I first started Quest, I knew I was in hot water. It never occurred to me how hard this was going to be, so without realizing it, I instantly had three major problems. First was the actual topic itself. Second was my motivation to actually do Quest. And last was my horrible habit of procrastinating every single task. So let's start. Finding a Quest topic was hard as I had to think of a unique, new, never-before-seen thing that would surprise everyone. I panicked a little and ended up spending the first 10 sessions thinking of an idea. So after a few failed topics, I gave up and after a while was suggested an idea that could actually suit me well, which was sleep. To give you a bit of context, if I tried to sleep, I would just lay there, staring at the ceiling for 1 hour, until eventually I'll get tired enough to doze off. After a year or two of this, I got bored and started playing video games instead. I guess you could say I was sort of addicted, but it didn't bother me too much as I was having fun. Eventually, it got so bad that I started to become nocturnal and during school hours, which negatively affected both my personal and academic life. This is one of the main reasons I chose this topic, as I needed to sleep. Now, on to the other problems. Procrastination. My good old friend that never ceased to amaze me with how hard it screws me over. I procrastinated so hard that I couldn't get any actual work done without motivation or pressure from my teachers. So, what did I actually end up doing? Well, I wrote, I guess. At first, my Quest topic was about writing different kinds of articles on different topics, but as I continued this, I realized that the idea was really broad and hard to research. So instead, I decided to focus on one specific topic, and I chose the one that would be beneficial for me the most, which was sleep. Before we begin, I first needed data, so I did the only thing that I could think of, which was a form. And a few days later, I got all the answers I needed. Turns out over 50% of the Green School community don't get the required 8 hours of sleep, which teenagers need to grow. This is worrying, as a lack of sleep can have long-term impacts on the immune system and in the entirety of your health, including your well-being and your body, as well as weight gain, anxiety, low self-esteem, and an increased risk of accidents. This obviously had to change, but I couldn't think of an idea, so after a while of thinking, spreading awareness was probably the only way of teaching people about sleep. So, the end result is an article-style literature piece that gives my opinion on sleep. I know this isn't much compared to others, but I feel like considering that 25% of the people who responded to my survey, both middle and high school, replied that they have anxiety at night, leading to less sleep, I feel like this could really help them with learning about sleep in general, different methods to improve your sleep, and basically my experience with sleep. Some of you might not think this is an important topic, but remember, a lack of sleep leads to higher risk of death from all causes, including cancer. In the end, I learned a few important topics from this experience. First, I have to create some sort of plan and set boundaries for myself, or I will never get anything done. Second, I learned to think on my own and stop relying on people so much. This was probably the most important thing I took away from all of this, as just sending me on my own and letting me do whatever I want was harder than I expected. In conclusion, this was definitely an experience, but I'm not too sure if it was a good one or not, as I noticed a lot of flaws in the way I work on things, which will probably benefit me later on, but also make things harder to do. And with this, I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who has helped me on this journey. Ibu Angie, Paklo, and the other teachers that helped and motivated me, my parents and my friends for supporting me all the way. Finally, I would like to end my quest with a quote. The nicest thing for me is sleep. Then, at least I can dream. Thank you.